Welcome to the devotional series of Psalm a Day, Keep Satan Away, the podcast edition, episode 81, subtitled Hear and Obey, and I'm Pastor D-Walk. Before we get started in the devotional today, I wanted to remind everybody of our upcoming trip to Egypt, entitled The Journey to Freedom and a Study of the Exodus. This is March 6th through 16th of next year. And it includes a trip down the River Nile on a cruise and also a trip over to the Sinai Peninsula. And we'll be studying in depth the faith journey and the freedom journey of the people of Israel as led by Moses. We have limited space available, but still some space. So if you're interested in a faith trip like that, please reach out to me at davidwachter@charter.net and we can get you the appropriate information to sign up. And now on to our psalm, Psalm 81. I'm going to read the whole psalm, 16 verses today from the NIV. There'll be some linguistic comments to make, but I'll save that for the devotional period. So here we go. For the director of music, according to Gittith of Asaph. Sing for joy to God, our strength. Shout aloud to the God of Jacob. Begin the music, strike the timbrel, play the melodious harp and lyre. Sound the ram's horn or the shofar at the new moon. And when the moon is full on the day of our festival, this is a decree for Israel, an ordinance of the God of Jacob. When God went out against Egypt, and he established it as a statute for Joseph. I heard an unknown voice say, I removed the burden from their shoulders. Their hands were set free from the basket. In your distress, I called and I rescued you. I answered you out of a thundercloud. I tested you at the waters of Meribah. Hear me, O my people, and I will warn you. If you would only listen to me, Israel, you shall have no foreign god among you. You shall not worship any god other than me. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. Open wide your mouth and I will fill it. But my people would not listen to me. Israel would not submit to me. So I gave them over to their stubborn hearts to follow their own devices. If my people would only listen to me, if Israel would only follow my ways, how quickly I would subdue their enemies and turn my hand against their foes. Those who hate the Lord would cringe before him, and their punishment would last forever. But you, Israel, would be fed with the finest of wheat, and with honey from the rock I would satisfy you. Psalm 81. So the beginning of this psalm actually are a great call to worship and serve as a call to a renewal of covenant. And what is a covenant? It's essentially a promise or a contract related to the relationship that we have with God. Some scholars have argued that this particular psalm was associated with the fall festival known as the Feast of Sukkot, or the Tabernacles, as we would say in English. And of course, that feast, Sukkot, is the celebration of the Exodus wilderness experience, where God saved his chosen people from the bondage and the slavery of Egypt and led them from the Red Sea into freedom in the desert. And he dwelt with them there in a tent, the tabernacle, or the sukkah in Hebrew. And if you recall, it was during that wilderness experience that God delivered Torah, the law, and the commandments to Moses. Now, our psalm today, as you could tell from the reading, recounts that history with God speaking in the first person. And after he summarizes the events of the Exodus to the assembled congregation, he reminds his chosen people of their apostasy, of their turning away from him. And the technique that he uses was, once again, this classic Jewish repetition of a word or a phrase. And this time, that repetition is the key word Shema in Hebrew, which means to hear or to listen. But it means more than that. To hear, to listen for our Western ears. That's a cerebral thing. It's something that's done between the ears. But in the Hebrew mindset, to hear and to listen is only the first part. The full meaning of this word Shema is to hear or listen and obey. And this happens a lot in Hebrew, these cerebral words. Another one could be to remember. Oftentimes, God would remember his people as if he could forget. But he not just remembers, but he remembers and acts. So these passive type verbs in Hebrew have action behind it. So Shema, to hear and obey. So let's look again at the passage of scripture and look for this word Shema. In verse 8, God commands, hear, and now I'm going to use my D-Walk translation, in verse 8, God says, "Hear and obey, my people, and I will warn you, Israel, if you would but hear me and obey." And my mind immediately goes to another passage of scripture. It's from Deuteronomy 6:4-9. It's known as the Shema, which is the greatest commandment that every rabbi, including Jesus, proclaimed as such, the greatest commandment. And here's what it says: "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God. The Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might." That's the Shema. It continues on, by the way. It's a great passage of scripture to memorize. But God continues in this psalm to speak about hearing and obeying. Listen to this from verse 11. "But my people would not hear and obey me. And so God gave them over to their stubborn desires to follow their own devices." And then something remarkable happens. It's as if God is praying to himself. Listen to what he says. God cries out, "If my people would only hear me and obey, if Israel would only follow my ways, how quickly I would humble their enemies." And so the theology of this text this morning reminds us of several things. First, God has seen us in our bondage, whatever form that has taken in your life, and he has already freed you from it in a mighty act of salvation, just the way he freed the people of Israel from their bondage and slavery in Egypt. Second, God desperately desires to have a relationship with us, that covenant relationship with us. And we often ignore and underestimate how great God's love is for us in that relationship. And the final thing is, if we would only Shema God, if we would only hear and obey God, he would go to incredible lengths to satisfy us, to protect us, to save us, which he already has, even to the extreme, and verse 16 that says, providing us honey from a rock. So today, my friends, may we hear and obey. May we Shema God's call from Psalm 81 for covenant renewal in our relationship with him. If we would hear and obey, he is there to provide honey from a rock. Godspeed and shalom, Pastor D. Walk signing out.